Ethan was the kind of man the world forgot to notice. He woke up at the same time every morning, went to the same office, ate alone every night, and went to sleep only to do it all over again. His life was not exciting, but it was stable. And for Ethan, stable was enough. Because somewhere deep inside he knew that unpredictability had once broken him. He just could not remember how. One cold evening, after an exhausting day at work, Ethan was walking home through a quiet, empty street. The wind was sharp, the road was deserted. A single streetlight above him flickered on and off, like it could not make up its mind. Ethan was lost in his thoughts, head down, hands in his pockets. And then something on a wall made him stop. It was a missing person poster. He almost walked past it, but something about the face made him turn back. He stepped closer, and then he froze. The face on the poster was his. Same eyes, same jaw, same small scar near his left eyebrow. The scar he had carried since childhood, the one he always touched when he was nervous. It was him. Without any question, it was him. And beneath the photo in plain black letters were 3 words that made his stomach drop. Missing for 7 days. Ethan stood there in the cold, completely still. His first instinct was to laugh. Maybe one of his friends was playing some cruel joke. But the longer he stared at that poster, the more the laughter died before it ever left his mouth. He had never taken that photo. He had no memory of it ever being taken. And something about that small fact terrified him more than anything else. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered immediately, but there was no voice on the other end. Only breathing. Slow, deliberate. The kind of breathing that belongs to someone who is watching you. Then the line went dead. Ethan tore the poster off the wall and ran. Back in his apartment, something felt wrong the moment he stepped inside. He could not name it at first, but then he noticed. A chair had been moved slightly. A glass was sitting in the sink that he never remembered using. The air carried the impression of someone who had only just left. Ethan checked every room, every corner, every closet. He found nothing. He told himself it was stress. He told himself he was being paranoid. He went to bed. But the next morning, things got stranger. At work, he casually mentioned the poster to a coworker, expecting the man to laugh. Instead, his coworker looked at him with slow and unsettled confusion and said the words that made Ethan's chest tighten. "I haven't seen you in a week." Ethan laughed it off. But the man was not joking, so Ethan checked the office attendance system himself, and his heart dropped. 7 days, 7 consecutive days marked absent, days that Ethan remembered living. The meetings, the emails, the coffee from the machine in the corridor, he remembered all of it. But according to every record, he had not been there. He opened his email next. Entire threads were missing. Sent messages existed that he had never written. Conversations started mid-sentence with no beginning. Then he checked his apartment security camera log. According to the footage, nobody had entered or exited his home in nearly 7 days, not even him. On his way back from work, he stopped at the coffee shop where he bought his morning coffee every single day. The cashier looked up at him, and then she flinched, like she had seen a ghost. And in a very quiet voice she said, "I thought you were gone." Ethan stepped back onto the street and just stood there in the cold. The entire world was operating according to a reality he did not understand, and it was getting harder to breathe. Over the next few days, it only became worse. Strange people stared at him on the street. Unknown numbers kept calling. One night, a voice on the other end of the phone said just 6 words before hanging up. "You were never supposed to wake up."
Standing outside your door
His own
now.
memories began to fall apart. Certain hours felt like they had been invented. Certain conversations felt like echoes of things that had never actually happened. He could not tell anymore where the real ended and something else began. Then one sleepless night, he found it. A news article about his own disappearance. His photo, a police report, witness statements from his neighbors, comments from his workplace about how he had simply vanished without a trace. Ethan sat at his desk and read every single word. Alive, breathing, reading about himself as though he were already gone. Something inside him went very quiet. He became obsessed with finding answers. His phone's location history showed movements he could not explain. Places he had never consciously visited. Hours with no memory attached to them. He followed every trail he could find, and eventually one unknown number led him to an abandoned medical building at the edge of the city. Dark, silent, forgotten. He went there alone, at night, because fear had long since taken the place of reason. Inside, past corridors that smelled of rust and sealed time, he found a room that was very much alive. Monitors covered every wall, and every screen showed footage of him. Sleeping in a white room, sitting alone and staring at nothing, walking in slow circles, being watched by people in lab coats who wrote things down without any expression on their faces. Then a voice came through a speaker in the ceiling. Flat and clinical and completely without emotion. Subject consciousness stabilization incomplete. Ethan demanded answers. His voice broke against the walls. And then a woman appeared on the other side of a glass panel. Calm, unhurried, like someone who had rehearsed this exact moment many times before, and she told him the truth. Weeks ago, Ethan had lost someone he had loved more than he had ever allowed himself to say out loud. The loss had been sudden, and it had been total. His mind had not been able to hold the weight of it. He had collapsed completely. And in the wreckage of that collapse, he had been brought to this facility and placed inside an experimental consciousness reconstruction program. Her laugh, the exact weight of her presence in a room, and it hurt. It hurt in the specific, clean way that only the truth can hurt. And that was how he knew it was real.
Please!
Then the monitor in the corner flickered on by itself. A live feed, a hospital room, a man lying in a bed, motionless, connected to machines, chest rising and falling in the thin, steady rhythm of someone being kept alive by something other than will. The man had a scar near his left eyebrow. Ethan stared at the screen for a long time without speaking. Then he turned to the woman and asked, barely above a whisper, "If I am standing here, then who is that?" She looked at him with something close to grief, and said very quietly, "That is the question we have been trying to answer since the day you arrived." The alarms went off. Red light flooded the room. Every monitor cut to black. The building dropped into silence and darkness. But in the last half second before everything went dark, Ethan saw something on the nearest screen that stopped his heart completely. The man in the hospital bed, the motionless man with his face and his scar and his hands, was moving, slowly, with the kind of effort that looks like lifting the entire weight of the world. He was opening his eyes. And when they opened, they did not look at the ceiling, they did not look at the machines or the doctors or the white walls around him. They looked directly into the camera, directly at Ethan. And they were terrified. The darkness closed in, the building went completely silent, and Ethan stood alone, in the black, finally understanding something that no answer could fix and no simulation could soften. Somewhere in a white room full of machines, another version of him had just woken up, had looked into the dark, and had found him already there, looking back.